Good morning, everybody. This is John Cagle with Selltis. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about charting. We're following up our first Coffee with Selltis session regarding charting with a follow-up here that will go into a little bit more detail about what charting is about and how to put goal records into play when we're looking at charts. So first of course, there are several different types of charts in Selltis, and you're seeing a display of those as we go along. Today we want to, again, review manipulating charts and then put goals onto those charts. So just a review, as we've said, charting allows you to show a wide variety of data quickly. And we're always talking about perhaps gap reporting, exception reporting, what it is that we need to see at a glance so that we can start making decisions using the data that's in Selltis. As always, you guys hear me say that I'm about using the data or working the data rather than working to put data into Selltis. We want to always be thinking about how we're going to report on the data, not just using Selltis as a data repository. All right, we certainly want to indicate any trending, any patterns, whether that be a column trend, whether that be a line chart, whether that be a quick gauge chart, and be able to summarize that data quickly. So as we move along, we talked last time about modifying a chart. What's on the x-axis, what's on the y-axis, how we change existing data into a chart, how we set on-the-fly edits, and then we talked about statistics, whether they be percentage of the total itself, etc. So just a quick review. First of all, when we're working with views, we certainly can just change the type from a list view to a chart view, and that's shown here. In addition, once we do make it from a list view into a chart view, then we can choose what type of chart that we're working with. Now, some of the charts do not allow a goal line, and the reason there is simply that we're typically working with OR situations. In other words, we're trying to compare several values together in one expansive chart rather than going against a value or rather than going against a single entity in the chart. All right. Again, reviewing our session from last time just to bring everybody up to speed, and we'll look at this in the real database too, in a demo database. Want you to be aware then that we could set the chart y-axis, the vertical axis, looking at totals, looking at statistics, or looking at record counts and percentages, where you also have some options. If you were to look at statistics, you would see that, of course, you can set 1 or up to 4 different levels that you would show in your view or in your report. And then, of course, here's the checkbox for allowing to change the y-axis definition on the fly. If you were to choose totals instead of statistics, you would see that you can put up to 4 values side by side. So for example, here I've said for an opportunity, I can show the value and perhaps the probability of success or the value index right next to it. And here's a situation, again in a screenshot, we'll go into the actual view and show this too, of where we're setting the y-axis values side by side. In this case, we're showing statistics for unit price for our opportunities. Perhaps this is filtered down for a particular product view, but we're showing an average, a minimum, a maximum, and a median value for, in this case, unit price, which I'm assuming to be on an opportunity or a quote line. Here's another example where we're showing y-axis values side by side, again y being of course the vertical axis here. And now we're showing for, I would assume, a list of opportunities. In fact, here it is, ops created by a particular vendor and date range. We're showing a sum of opportunities value and value index versus a month on the x-axis. So we're rolling this up or sorting these opportunities by month and then showing side by side for any particular month the value and value index. And as you see in this particular screenshot that I have, I'm starting to show a goal line represented by this red dashed line here on the view. Another kind of chart that we have in Selltis, which can also accommodate a goal line, is called a gauge chart. So you would think of this just like on a dashboard of a car where we're saying, hey, it's go or no go, we have fuel or we don't have fuel, or the oil temperature is hot or it's not hot, or the pressure is this or the pressure is not this. When we're working with gauge charts, keep in mind that here are the behind-the-scenes setup for the colors that you would see on the gauge. Again, trying to summarize data graphically or large amounts of data graphically so that you can see where we are at. In this particular screenshot for this gauge chart, you'll see that you will see that our goal is actually $170,000 for this particular month. That goal is exceeding the value of what we have now is exceeding our goal substantially. So we are, of course, in the green here rather than only 50 to 99% of the goal or less than 50% of the goal, as you can see from the setup. All right, again, we'll go into the demo data in just a second and go back through this just to a degree. We set the goal line in the chart by two different options. A goal line is set in the chart either as a static value, it's always the same no matter what we click on in order to drive data into the chart with a filter, or it's dynamic as viewed from, say, a master view. So those of you who are with me as Selltis users will know that we can have one or more master views driving the resulting data in a related view. So for example, we may want to see the opportunities input by a particular user. And those opportunities value, if we set it as a static goal, would be, say, $150,000 per month, regardless of which user we check in the master view. Alternatively, we could make a goal for each user, and then we would have a dynamic goal property by checking this box here. And then as we changed users in the same type of desktop setup that I had before, say users opportunities entered by date range, as we clicked from one user to another, we would see a different goal line for each user in the resulting opportunities input view. We set goals by simply going to that category's default desktop in Selltis. So in Selltis, as you know, there are default desktops for every category, whether that be opportunities or projects or companies or contacts. One category in Selltis is called goals, so we could simply go to a desktop like Goals All and see the opportunity to enter a new goal or review goals that we have right in that particular desktop. Those records are manipulable and filterable just like any other category in Selltis. You could see goals by user, goals by supplier or vendor, goals by territory, etc. Here I'm entering a goal for a particular vendor. When we're entering a goal record, you will see that there are fields here for the default goal records that you can create. So I can create a goal record for a specific user simply by connecting a user to that goal, naming it, and starting to fill out the values. Alternatively, I could create a goal record, as I have done in this case, for a particular manufacturer, supplier, vendor, principal, depending on the word that you use. So in this case, I've made a goal, I've named it in this text field, and connected it to Foxborough. Down below, you will see the ability to enter annual goals for a variety of connected categories. So those connected categories would include activity logs, which are purpose lead, right here, opportunities, orders, quote lines. We typically modify this slightly to see goals for projects, for example, in addition to any of these. And last but not least, you can certainly set up goal records for certain types of activities. And you'll see that across the bottom. I've said that for this particular manufacturer, principal, vendor, supplier, that I'd like to see 2 sales visits per month. So remember, we are entering annual goals, and those annual goals then are linearly divided by 12. So for every month, we would expect that for Foxborough, our goal would be to enter 2 new opportunities, and for every month, we would expect to see 100,000 new in value for the new opportunities that are entered. So we are assuming in this case, just to take that one step further, that each opportunity has an average of about $50,000. This is something we discussed in setting up goals and perhaps thinking about how goals could be written, which we've done in a separate session, which is available on our website. Okay. Let me go backwards just a little bit here. Hopefully I won't make you dizzy. But we talked about the ability to enter goals that are either static or dynamic. And again, the static are saying no matter what value we choose in a master view, again, if it's a list of users and their related ops, we would choose an individual user. And if the override with value button is chosen here, right here, you would see the same goal record, or the same goal line, excuse me, in the related view, perhaps an ops input view, as I've mentioned, regardless of the user you chose. Whereas a dynamic goal record is going to be defined by the goal records you write, in my example, against a particular user, a particular product, as we've shown with the Foxborough goal, etc. So going back down here, here is where we're talking about the dynamic goals, the goals that change depending on the master view selection. And there is a shortcut or some help on the setup of the view itself, which tells you if you're able to display that dynamic goal. And in addition, it gives you some hints as to why or why not we might see a yes or no here at the top of the view. And again, I'll come back to that and show you what that looks like in a little bit more detail. In this particular case, it says, yes, I can display this goal on a monthly basis if the goal record matches the filters and sort priorities that I've put into play. All right, so we'll look at some screenshots of the results here, and let's jump into the database, the demo database, and we'll see what that looks like here. Here I'm looking at a demo database, jk.selltis.com, and I've made a desktop called a vendor input charting demo. And in this particular desktop, we'll take a look at the resulting charts of setting some goals. So let's go back through our little review of how we set up these charts, and then we'll see how we got the goal lines into the charts. Let's go on the first one here. I will put this view into focus by clicking on it and go to View, Properties, And first of all, of course, we've changed the list into a chart. When I do that, I get a little bit different values here in the view properties in the top left. I would click then on chart, and then I would come over to the chart properties and start the setup. First, the type is a line chart. I'll stick with that, but I will allow changing the type in the view for the user as they perhaps edit this on the fly when they're looking at the view itself. Almost always will show data point values in the chart properties. We could allow changing the x-axis definition in the view by clicking this box right here. And now we're going to sort the view. So just like sorting a list view, you will have up to 4 sorts deep, if you will. So field 1 is a higher level than field 2. And you can see that I've decided to sort this by the date that it was input. But not just the date time, I want to sort it by either a quarter or in this case a month. And then if I want to display that sort on the chart, I have to check this box here. You would need to have at least one of these checked in order to display the chart. Otherwise you get a message that just says the chart cannot be displayed. You can see in my sort properties, again reviewing from our first session, that I've chosen a sub-sort, if you will. So we're going to look at the data by month, and then we'll look at the data by who wrote, in this case, this activity. I'll click OK. And now we'll take a look at the y-axis. In this case, this is a list of sales visits by user, which are activity log types. And the y-axis then, I'm going to show that vertical axis to be about not a value, they're sales visits, so we really only want to look at a count. So that's why I've chosen this value. You can see that even with count, I have a little bit of flexibility. I can say the percentage of all of them by month, which doesn't make too much sense. So I'm going to leave it at count only. And again, you can allow changing the y-axis definition in the view. In this case, it doesn't make that much sense. Last, we came down and said, oh, by the way, I need to go backwards just a little bit to the edit sort excess here because I wanted to remind you that here's where I set the dynamic goal versus the static goal. And remember, the static goal then will be the same for every master view value that we choose is the best way to put that, I think. So let me come and hit OK here and show you what I mean by that real quick. And then I'll come back in. So here's the view we were editing here. And this is a list of activity logs type sales visit by date range. And we're showing the count here on the line. And we're also showing the goal in this particular view. So the goal is 2 sales visits per month, and you can see in this simple demo that sometimes I've made the goal and sometimes I haven't. So you can picture if we have more complex data and a lot more data that we would have some nice exception reporting or some nice gap analysis depending on how you set up the view. Let me minimize that a little bit. Again, the goal you can see is 2. And this refers back to setting that static versus dynamic goal. So the view is filtered by looking at the particular supplier. If I were to click on another vendor here for Zurich, I don't have a goal written for them, and so there is no goal line shown. But editing the view, I could make a static goal, view, properties, edit sort, and instead of defining it from the master view, I could overwrite it and put, say, 4 in there and hit OK. And I'll make a temporary change. And now you can see, regardless of the vendor, I'm going to have a goal line of 4. So if I click here, 4. Foxborough, I'm no longer looking at Foxborough's goal record, which has a goal of 2 per month. It still says 4. So I'm just going to reload my view here and hope that that part of the dynamic versus the static part of things made sense. Let me reload this desktop here to get rid of those temporary changes. And let's take a look at that goal hint at the bottom that I described. So view properties for our same activity log sales visit view. And you can see that back here on the edit sort axis, I'm trying to make a dynamic goal based on the user, or excuse me, the vendor in this case. And on the bottom, I've said, in order to display that dynamic goal, I'm checking this checkbox, display the goal line when possible. And this gives me a hint as to whether I've set this up correctly to take advantage of the goal record. This button here then, if I hit it, says, yes, for sort field year month, if a goal record that matches this view exists. Again, we didn't have one for Zurich, but we did have one for Foxborough. No for the secondary sort, and that's okay. I really just wanted to see a goal line for the master view, which in this case was Foxborough and Zurich, the various manufacturers or suppliers. So hopefully that helps you as you look at this, and certainly Deborah Howell in support or myself are available to help you. If you're getting a no or two here, we certainly can help you work through that. Perhaps you've set up the sort wrong, perhaps you've asked for too many values, etc., which don't make logical sense when it tries to tag that, say, that SQL value of a goal. All right, so we've talked about setting goals and how to get the goal record into the particular view. I'm just checking my notes here to make sure that I didn't miss too much. I think that really is how I wanted to conclude for today, and make sure that we answer any questions as we go along. All right, thank you very much for your time. Again, I'm available to you at any point, and so is support. And so let me put that in front of you. Here's my information. Here is Selltis support. And then if you go to www.selltis.com/training, you should see this video in a day or two. And you will also see the training guides, which are well-written documents by our development team. And there are some PowerPoint presentations in addition to these Coffee with Selltis and other presentation videos. Thanks again for your time today. I hope you've learned a little bit about how you can use Selltis, and at the very least some ideas for being able to work the data, not work to put the data in.